Welcome to the Damned Podcast, to our video question of the week. And of course, this is dealing with what we were going to talk about last week, but we had internet problems, and we wondered what it was all about, and we discovered it was due to faulty wiring, and so we ended up getting something that's allowing us to do so much more now than what we were able to do successfully. It got us a free upgrade to fiber optics. So I hope you're enjoying this. I hope this is coming through. And of course, if you're watching this on the replay, feel free as well to make comments. This is on our YouTube channel and on our Facebook group page. So you can add comments, you can ask questions, you can also email me if you happen to be watching this somewhere completely unforeseen, at The Damned Podcast, all small letters, all one word, The Damned Podcast at gmail.com, and I will get back to you. Now, of course, the question of the week that was asked was, have you ever used or have you created talismans? Well, if you're brand new, you might be asking the question, what is a talisman? Well, talismans and amulets are flip sides of something very similar. Talismans are objects, and they could be anything. Something you made yourself, something you acquired, and regardless of what the source is, you through your own energy or through creating sigils of spirits or different intelligences, made a field of force around that to draw something to you, whether that's a job or money or love or what have you. An amulet is very similar. It's something that you have created or acquired and put energy into it through whatever reason or source to keep things from you, more of a protective aspect. Now, if you follow the phases of the moon, if you were creating a talisman, you would want to be doing that during the waxing phase of the moon. If you wanted to create an amulet, you would want to create it on the waning phase of the moon. And so you see how this is, something that's a very ancient practice. For myself, yes, I have used talismans before, and amulets for that matter. Most I made myself. But they have been very potent and very powerful. And I know some of you in the comments that were made over the last couple of weeks said that, you have used them. And, I haven't yet heard you say what results you had from that. I'd really appreciate hearing that if you were, looking for that. I'm not looking for, comments about, something that you obviously found on some spurious site where the person is just a faker and, get this plastic statue and you're going to feel better. No, I'm talking about actual serious magical practice here. If you've used one, let us know the results if you feel comfortable with that. One of the things that happened to me when I was making a talisman, and this is about 14 years ago, it was one of the ones that I made that was based on Kabbalistic lore. Now, of course, I'll make talismans or amulets based a lot on Kabbalistic thought, or conversely, if I'm not using that, I'll use runic symbolism. And remember that those are very different systems. But either way that I've used them, I found them to be successful. This one I was making, I made it out of actually just something as simple as that colored thick paper. I don't know. It's not quite cardboard. It's not quite paper. Anyway, I made a little circle out of that, and I put the sigils of Jupiter on it and made it according to the Sephira or Sephirot Chesed, which, of course, has a lot of beneficent qualities to it. And, of course, the planetary intelligence I put in there of Jupiter, which relates to Chesed, is special to me in that with being a Sagittarius, Jupiter is an important planet in that astrological symbolism. And so I did this because I'd lost my car. It actually, I was Kaputski on that. I was working at that point in time at a garage driving bus, kind of ironically that, I need a car to be able to get to the bus, but I didn't want to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to start any shift that started before 7 a.m. So I needed a car because I was at a garage that was close to my apartment at the time, but I was moving to a different garage through no desire of mine. that was way downtown, and it was going to be really impossible. Basically, like I said, I'd have to get up at 3:30 in the morning to start any shift starting, 7 a.m. or even later, just because of the way that things worked in service. And I didn't have a car anymore, so I didn't know what I was going to do. I was looking at the prospect of losing my job, so I decided to make this talisman, and I was creating it, and I got all the symbolism there, and I even had little fine paint brushes, because I really went to town on this to make it as nice as possible, and I was getting ready to do it, setting my intent, doing the things that I've talked about in broadcasts about this, all right? And I had a price limit because I was going through a very messy situation at the time, and I only had a maximum of $500 that I could spend on a car. And of course, that gets you just a piece of junk, but I needed something, and I was hoping it was going to work. And so I was making this talisman. The day before I was going to do the ritual, and it was one of the last. It was the last week, actually, before I was going to move to this other garage. I was sitting out in the smoking area because they had them then. And I was just thinking. And another bus driver came and sat down beside me, and we started talking. And he mentioned to me, hey, Dan, I just got married a little while ago, and we bought a car together, and we've got all of the stuff that we need. And I have a car that I had before that I'm trying to get rid of, and I was going to put it in the paper. But, I'm sitting here talking to you, and, I'd much rather sell it to you. It's actually something I could get a fair chunk of change for if I put it in the paper, but for a fellow bus driver, I'd sell it to you for $500. Really? I'm interested. Okay, I went and I looked at it, I got it. I drove that car for 4 years. Never had a problem with it, really. When I got rid of it, I got a call from the Stony Plain RCMP wanting to know if I was the owner of the car, and I wasn't. I traded it in. It had been burned in an electrical fire. It short-circuited somewhere in there. It was burned right down. They needed to identify it by the VIN number. I had no problem when I was driving it. But anyway, this happened the day before I was going to do the ritual to energize this talisman. Now, I did the ritual anyway, and I would recommend if something like this happens to you that you also do the ritual as you intended to close the circuit, so to speak. And this is, to make sure that the gift for a gift principle is always honored. Time does not flow in the same type of a way that it does here in our experience of the world, in our day-to-day life, in the spirit world. It just doesn't. So this happened, and that took place. And there are many different things that happened to me, and not all of them happened, before I did the ritual, but the results were always in there. And that's true with amulets as well. And, these things can, especially if you make them yourself, and if you take the time to do it right, and by doing it right, I mean having your focus, having your intent, having those things that, if you take a look at the broadcast Sending Magic, and the other broadcast that came after it, I believe called Ritual Structure, they're in the Broadcast and Features playlist on YouTube. You can see some of the intensity that's necessary for this to be effective in your life, and also have the respect that you're not just working with spiritual powers because they're your tools. Okay? They're not. They're conscious entities. And so when you treat conscious entities with respect, just like you want to be treated with respect, many times in the gift for a gift principle, you get it back in spades. But, these type of tools are very powerful and very important. And, just as a note to those that may be watching that are patrons getting trained in our Patreon community, we're going to be talking about, as we move forward in the block in the intensive training, starting out in the new year, we're going to be talking about step by step how to create talismans of your own. Okay, we talked about bind runes. We're going to be talking about talismans and how you can use bind runes and other symbolism from other maps of consciousness. And that's going to be exciting for you. And if you want to join in on that, feel free to go and visit us at patreon.com/thedamnpodcast. You'll be able to, take the opportunity really for next to nothing to be able to help yourself and the damn podcasts keep moving too. And so we are excited about this. And making talismans, making amulets, doing other things that are related to creating change in your life are a part of what this path is about. Because sometimes when you're on the path of growth, there are things that get in the way. You know the old saying, life happens. Well, sometimes it does. And those things that happen, those challenges that come our way, aren't meant to make us go, oh, I guess I'm going to have to rethink my life now. No, a person should always be rethinking their life anyway. What it should do, rather than just give you discouragement, is give you an excitement that, hey, I get the opportunity to practice in actual fact what I am learning, what I am becoming. And it makes you stronger, and it makes you more efficient. And when you do something, and let's say that, the results don't manifest the way you want, well, that's not something either where you take your hat, I don't have one on right now, and throw it on the ground and walk away. No, that means you ask yourself the question, why didn't it work? And so now you take a look at things, and when you journal and keep records of everything that you're doing for your own self, not for other people to see, you begin to see patterns emerging over time. This really didn't work, but that did. And it seemed to work that way over and over again. So we adapt what didn't work to what was working, and you find out how things resonate with your focus, your will, and you become more efficient, more successful, more in the tune of what represents an expression of your authentic self. Talismans and amulets can really help with that. Now, I'm just looking for a moment in the different chat features here. I don't see anybody on here at the moment, but you know what? That's okay. I do this because I know it's going to be something that helps you in the long run, even if you're watching the replay. So please feel free to comment. Also, when you see our YouTube channel, go to our YouTube channel, subscribe to it if you haven't already. All of these things help us to increase our impact so that we can move forward. It's not something that, is a financial help to me or anybody else, really. It's what it is needed in the search algorithms of YouTube to help expand that influence so that we have more people watching what's going on. Not because I am anything great, but because many people have no idea about what their authentic self even is or how to get in touch with it again. Thank you for watching. I am Dan, the host of the Dan Podcast. Until next time.